All right. Well, we're going to talk about the Detroit Tigers 2022 roster. I know, we were 5 months away from, I think, even the catchers and pitchers reporting in February.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of ways, but it's kind of fun to like look ahead and see what players will be called up, what players can they maybe sign in free agency, what players avoid arbitration. All those things to kind of consider. And will Chris Ilitch spend money this year after seeing a pretty significant improvement from what a lot of people expected? So I still don't know if they're competing for a Central. I mean, I think only the White Sox are going to get better right now too. They've got a young roster. So, and we'll talk about the White Sox probably once now their season is done. So we may talk about them next week and try to predict their roster. Sure. But I did kind of want to go over this. I have a couple of faces and names that I want to read off, and I kind of just want your thoughts, and I'll put mine into as well. Do these guys make the 2022 Tigers 26-man roster? So the first one we got here is
opening day roster, right?
Yeah, opening day. Right? This is Nat Boy, yeah.
Well, it's a wild card for me a little bit, because I'm going to go with yes for right now.
Yeah.
But I would probably put not money on it. That's dumb, but I would probably, if I were to bet, I would bet he wouldn't be in the starting rotation or on the roster by mid-season though.
So do you think he gets moved or traded, or he's just not competent?
I think he gets moved. I think he has value. He's still, how old is he? He's probably in his 30s.
He'll almost, by the end of the year, I think he'll be 32 next year.
Yeah, so it's not like he's at 40, right?
Yeah.
So he's probably still got 2 or 3 more years of decent pitching if he's healthy. And he brings value to a team, and I feel like he brings value to the Tigers too, with a lot of their young guys, and most of their young pitching, besides Screwball, is right-handed at the moment too.
Yeah.
Having another lefty in there, a guy who's been around, a guy's been with the team for a long time, a good veteran presence there to start the season is good. And then if he's great, I mean, maybe they do stick around with him. But if not, then I wouldn't be surprised if you move him. A team will be fine. Teams are always looking to fill the back end of the rotation with a left-hander if they can, who has proven something in the past. So.
And I have Boyd as my fourth arm in that rotation as well.
I'll have buyers for him though, but yeah, I think that's a good bet for him to be in there.
Next one here is Casey Mize.
Yes, I mean
I think that's a gimme. Yeah.
I move on from him. I mean, I know there were some struggles. There were some really good moments this year. There were some struggles. The question is health sometimes with him too.
Well, they really controlled his pitch counts this year. They stopped him at 50. They stopped him at 75. I don't think he ever touched 90 this year. I don't think he even
did. They're baby him along, which in the end probably smart, especially for a team that's out of contention. Yeah, I mean, this year's got to be the year where he kind of turns the corner though, and it's like, okay, like this is a guy we were expecting. I don't really know if he's ever going to be more than like a really good third starter though, which the Tigers are probably fine with because they have other pitching depth right now coming up through it. But it's kind of frustrating if he's the number 1 overall pick and that's what he ends up with.
We'll see what Jackson Jobe even makes it, though. We'll get to that in the 2026 roster. But
you got some time. He better not be on this because I'm going to say no right now.
I don't think he makes it past Double-A next year. That's best case for Jackson Jobe next year. So we're looking at Spencer Turnbull for the next one.
This one's tough too.
He didn't play much this year, but he did well when he was there.
Got hurt, threw a no-hitter this year though. I'm going to say yes.
I have him as a no.
If he's a yes, he's my 5th guy in the rotation, but I think he's going to have to earn a spot in spring training.
Okay.
And I just feel like with the experience, I think they're going to stick around with him one more shot. He's not expensive.
That's the thing. I don't know if he's terribly expensive, but if they are trying to just save up for a little bit, maybe like a big time free agency at shortstop this year, he may be a guy that when he gets to arbitration, they're like, okay, we don't want to pay that. And
sure, it's fair.
I don't
know. That one's tough. There's a couple guys in that rotation that are tough because health has been a problem for him his whole career. The stuff's always been there, but it's been control and health. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised either way, but I'll say yes for now.
Okay. And we got this one, Tarek Skubal.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a gimme right there with Myers. Yep. And it's going to be, I think
he's got a chance to be their best arm in the end.
He did very well this year. I think he was on the second team all-rookie team. Second all-rookie team. So
there are games where he's like, "What are you doing?" But like that happens for everybody. And
strikeouts are high for him all this year, and I think he could only get better when you work on your breaking ball. So
yeah, his stuff's better than mine, in my opinion.
So we've looked at 4 starting pitchers. Is Matt Manning near number 5?
Yeah, I think he's on the roster.
I don't know if he's going to be a long reliever or if that's the reason I had Turnbull off the roster, because I have Manning as my 5.
I think he's going to be a starter. I don't know how it's going to all work out in the end with who shakes out, who goes to the pen, or who's not. But I think for Manning's development, it makes sense. You have to, if you see him long term as a starter, just continue to roll him out there as a starter. That was the whole point of bringing him up this year and letting him take his lumps, because he was in all actuality not very good this year. He had a couple good starts.
Yeah,
and probably a handful of good starts. Thinking about it,
he was not getting strikeout pitches though. That was something, pitching a lot of contact.
But sometimes that comes first. I mean, Dylan Cease struck out a ton of people this year. He was top 5 in the league, and but the years previous he didn't. He was striking out like 6 per game, right? 6 per 9, which is like not even.
It was reminding me of Kenny Rogers when Kenny Rogers was pitching 7.5 innings and getting 1 strikeout a game.
Right.
Those were the good days. 2006 when we actually made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have the Tigers picking up an arm for starting arm this year?
No, not in the offseason.
You don't think that they go after Justin Verlander?
Well, if Verlander wants to come back, then that would be intriguing for them.
I don't want him to be expensive though. And it's like, how much is it going to be?
But it would be really stupid for them to pay him a lot of money.
You got to give like a 2-year deal and like $3.5 million.
He's going to be expensive, more than likely. I just say no, because he's probably going to be expensive. He'd probably love to come back to Detroit. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But he also has been injury prone this latter half of his career.
Mm-hmm.
And he wouldn't even, I mean, by the time you're probably really ready to compete, he's probably not even in the picture anymore. So he's taking starts away from a young guy at that point, more than likely, or an older guy, but probably a young guy at that point. And even if he gives you one more electric season, which maybe he has that, is it really worth it in the end, long term? You got to think long term here. Like, hey, 2 years from now, so like 2024. That's when, like, I'm not saying they can't compete this next year or the year after that, but 2024 should be like when everybody's ready. Like everybody's ready, everybody's seasoned. We've spent money on some guys, and now it's time to go get it, right?
Yeah.
And they don't. Verlander to me isn't really going to factor in.
He's not a part of that. Yeah, I don't think he lasts that long. I think he's a 2-year deal, and I don't think that
pops. Yeah.
Unless he really wants to retire, but I think he'd have to take a discount if that's the thing. And
right.
I don't think he will. So if that is the case, then I'm perfectly okay with Spencer Turnbull being our 5th guy.
Yep. No, if he wants to come to the team with a discount because he just wants to come back to Detroit, then yeah, I mean, you kick the tires there and see what his interest is. But you can't mortgage your future just to bring Justin Verlander back to sell some tickets. Like that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Bullpen, Michael Fulmer.
He's tough. This bullpen's going to be tough. Bullpen's always really hard to predict early because bullpens change so much.
Yeah. He did. I think he did really well, but he's also another guy that may be a movable piece like Boyd again, because he did that well in the bullpen this year. I think he got his ERA down to 3.
Yep. I'm going to say no.
Okay. He might be expensive. I think he's another guy that's.
I don't even think he's going to be expensive necessarily. I just think it's like, okay, look, he is who he is. He's maybe found a role in the bullpen, so I think he's got value to some teams. I think at this point, maybe you move him, or maybe you. If he's on the roster, I don't think he's on the roster for super long period of time. But I'm going to say no.
Pitcher MVP Willie Peralta.
He was basically the savior of their starting pitching for a while.
Yeah, I know. When all their guys were hurt, he was there.
I'm going to say no as well.
Yeah, he doesn't fit in this bullpen. I as much as I really appreciated what he did for the team this year, I think he had like a 3.10 ERA, which is not what we expected from Willie
He's also
Peralta.
old. He's also pretty old. He's in his 30s.
I think he's like 30. Yeah. So, I'm not with it, but I'm super thankful for what Willie did for us this year.
Sure.
Another guy I think we're going to be unanimous and no on is Jose Urania.
Yeah, that's a no. That was another guy just the same. That was a stopgap.
Well, he was actually there at the beginning of the year in our AAA, and then we pulled him up because Julio Teheran got hurt at the very beginning of the year after one start.
Yep.
So that was Teheran, so he's a no.
Yep.
Jose Cisnero.
I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, me too.
He was excellent before he fell. What did he do? Fall at his home.
He did pretty bad this last month. Yeah, September was a rough month for him.
Well, I think he hurt himself at the end of the month because he fell in his house and landed on something, or I don't know.
He was bad though in those last couple turns out.
He's got good stuff. I think he's a back end of the 7th or 8th inning guy, and they might have found something there that they had 3 or 4 arms back there that they could probably really trust. So
Gregory Soto.
Yeah.
Yep.
These are all-stars.
I think that's a pretty much guarantee out of the one
These are
guarantee.
all-star. I mean, he's frustrating, I know. And is he the
Yeah.
long-term solution as a closer? Probably not. But for next year, yeah.
Lefty that throws 100. I mean, he's like the Walmart Aroldis Chapman.
Yep. Yep.
So, Kyle Funkhouser.
Yes.
Yep. Another guy that did very well for him this year in the 7th to 8th inning. Yep. It was pretty much nice to see Funk, Cisnero, and Soto to finish our game.
He can go multiple, too. He can go multiple innings if needed as well. So
he was a starter in the minor leagues. So he was another guy that kind of switched like
Palmer. Figured it out. He kind of changed the way he throws. He figured it out this year. This was his coming out season. So
Buck Farmer.
No.
Yeah, me neither.
He stinks. Every time I saw him, I was like, "Oh, we're gonna hit some home runs." Cool.
Yeah, this is good for us. So a lefty that they may need, Tyler Alexander.
So he's interesting because he's like kind of a swing guy because he can start some games. Mm-hmm. He's good to have. So I'm actually gonna say yes at least at the starter.
He's also a guy that if you have like one out in an inning and the pitcher in right now is struggling, like you put Tyler in because he's that guy that can get that strikeout and keep that runner at third, and then
he's also typically going to throw strikes, so you're not going to really worry about him. Mm-hmm. He's a good guy to have on your team. I would agree with that. So
this lefty, I'm not saying is making it. That's Derek Holland.
Absolutely not. No, he's a journeyman.
Yep.
He'll get a minor league contract somewhere.
He will. Joe Jimenez.
Briefcase Joe. No.
I'm gonna say no. I think his time is up. He's so highly touted. He was so highly touted. He was supposed to be our closer like 3 or 4 years ago, and he was just bad.
He's been arguably, and they looked at I was reading an article where they broke it all down, and he arguably had been the worst pitcher in baseball, given how much he's pitched. He had the worst ERA in baseball the past 3 years. Yeah, arguably the worst pitcher in the entire MLB.
That leash was so long for him because he's like, he's supposed to be our closer. We have to make this work. He throws 98.
You got to move on.
I'm going to say no on Ian Kroll, another journeyman.
Yeah, I'm also going to say no on Ian Kroll. This bullpen's going to be rebuilt beyond the, best 4 guys, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to skip through Erasmo Ramirez and Miguel Del Pozo. I don't think they make it. Jason Foley, maybe?
No.
Okay. I think, he might start AAA, though. He might keep him around just for see if we can keep him in AAA. He did pretty well for us this year. I think he had a 3 ERA, but he was, I think, only 20 innings. Alex Lang. Now, I'm actually leaning towards yes.
I'm going to say yes for Lang. They like his arm.
Yeah. He's still young. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a guy who's not bad to just have your middle relief at least to start. And if it blows up on you, it's not like you can find another guy like Alex Lang. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Let's see what else I got here. So Brian Garcia. I'm gonna say no.
No. Good 2 years ago. It was actually pretty good for him. But
I'm gonna say they pick up one arm. I'm gonna pick Colin McHugh from Tampa Bay.
McHugh would be a good pickup. He can go long. He can go,
And he's a lefty too, isn't he?
He's a righty.
Oh, is he right?
Yeah, but he's started games before too, so he's solid. I like McHugh. So,
especially if they don't get Verlander, I think you can afford to be like, okay, we can go for a reliable bullpen guy here. Mm-hmm. Eric Haas.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Haas is going to be the backup catcher.
That's what I have. And I actually have them picking up Tucker Barnhart.
Barnhart is probably the guy. If I were them, I would. So here's the thing. They have to make a decision. Do they go all chips in, and we'll talk about shortstop. Do they go all chips in there, and then they end up spending a lot of money, which I think that's probably what they're going to do, if I'm being completely honest. But Barnhart isn't going to be all that expensive, so I think Barnhart's a good move there.
Yeah. So I think that are they going to keep 3 catchers in the rosters? Jake Rogers in or out?
Out.
All right. That means Grayson Griner is out.
Yep.
That means Dustin Garneau is out.
Yep.
Jonathan Scope.
It's hard to keep 3 catchers. The only reason you can even ask the question is because Haas can play. He's a
left field and right field. Yeah.
Left field. But in all actuality, you probably don't want him out there that much. I mean, it's fine for once every other series type thing, but you'd rather him. Yeah, I don't know. You'd rather him be your DH and backup catcher for the most part. So.
Jonathan Scope.
Yes.
Now, he played first base for the first time in his career? Do they move him back to second base?
They'll move back to second, depending on when Torkelson's up.
Okay. And so Torkelson is going to be a first baseman in the majors, not a third baseman?
I think so.
Does that mean they move Jeimer Candelario to third?
Yes.
Okay. And then so Jeimer's on the team?
Yep. Third base.
Yep. Willy Castro.
You should really move on from Willy Castro.
I was disappointed in Willy Castro. I had high hopes for him.
I wouldn't. I mean, he's fine if he's like your last guy on the bench, utility guy, but I think it's probably time to move on.
Yeah, he plays second base and shortstop, so I think if he's your utility guy,
shortstop, that's the problem. Actually, he's not good at all.
Yeah, he had a really great rookie year. That's why people were in the 2020 short season. He was like our player of the year, so that's why.
The problem is he's young. So do you move on from that quickly? Maybe not, but I don't know.
Or maybe we start him out in AAA and see what happens. I don't know how many options he has, but
right.
Nico Goodrum.
Yeah, I think we'll keep Nico around.
He plays every position but catcher and pitcher, so I mean that's something. I'm going to say Zach Short as a no.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, unless you really just want a bona fide backup shortstop and he only plays shortstop, but there's no point to have that guy on the roster if you can't. I mean, that's a wasted space at that point, unless he can rake. And Short can play defense decent, but he can't rake. So, no.
Yeah, I'm going to say no as one. Isaac Paradis.
Yes.
All right. I have him actually. I do have him as a backup second baseman to Jonathan Scope.
Yep, and I think he'll play some third too.
He can play second, short, and third, which is better even than, we were talking about a Willy Castro. You can play those 3 corner positions in the infield and the second base. So this guy I'm also thinking I might keep, Harold Castro, another guy that can play every position. But how many Don Kellys do you want on the roster?
Yeah, I would almost say no. I'm just get rid of both.
Switch hitter, though.
He's a switch hitter, but like I'm saying, if you just get rid of both Castros, you have Nico Goodrum's a switch hitter too, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, if you have Nico Goodrum as your super utility guy, given an injury or something, and then you keep Zach Short around at AAA, that's not bad. The guy who's played, that's not bad.
They can't move on from this guy. Miguel Cabrera is your DH full time, especially when Torque comes up.
Yeah. I mean, full time. Yeah. I mean, it depends on how Haas hits this next year too. I mean, if it just makes more sense eventually to have Haas in the lineup, then you got to. I mean, then Miguel's kind of the odd man out. You can't play him in defense. But yes, he's your DH.
He made a run for that 3,000th hit. So he'll probably get it next year. I think he's only like 9 hits away now to finish the year. So he did his best. But another guy did a pretty good job this year, Robbie Grossman.
Yeah, he'll be a right fielder.
Okay. Same. Akil Baddoo.
He'll be your left fielder.
Derek Hill.
I'm going to say yes.
I like that, yes.
This is why I think they're going to play some games with the rookies as far as service time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I think. I think they're not going to have Torkelson and Green up right away. So if we're talking opening day roster, I don't think
I think Green is on the opening day roster. I don't think Torque quite will be.
I don't think either of them will be, because at this point they're just going to play. They're not going to want to lose that extra year of service time for him.
Ooh, yeah.
So they're going to just say, all right, we'll sit him for a month down in AAA, both of them, and then they'll bring them both up around the same time. Then Garrett Hill is suddenly either down or your backup outfielder.
I think he's still a backup center fielder, and that depends what they do in free agency, because I'm also looking at potentially Starling Marte.
Yeah. Marte is going to be expensive, what he did, though. And that's the problem. How much do you really want to spend?
Well, and then we have to talk about the shortstop position that we spend. Do we look at Marcus Semien or Correa or Story?
I think they're going to look at all three. Story's going to be the cheapest option, more than likely. I think they're going to look really hard at Correa just with the history with AJ Hinch.
Mm-hmm.
I think Correa is probably the guy, if I'm being honest, that they'll get. Because he shores up everything. He shores up your defense.
I just know all Tigers Twitter was like, Carlos Correa raking against the White Sox. You love to see it.
Right. So, I actually think the White Sox end up getting Marcus Semien to play second base. You can talk about that at some point.
So you're done with Cesar Hernandez?
Yes. Well,
you were kind of excited about that when that happened.
It was, but because the trade made sense. You got Craig Kimball, but
now he was the last out in the entire season for you guys, and you're like,
we're both bums when they came up, so they came over. So, but we can talk about that with the White Sox. But I think the White Sox get Marcus Semien to play second base. Semien came up with the White Sox when he first came up. So,
Victor Reyes. It's tough again, man.
No. You don't need a backup to every position. No.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, how many outfielders do you want on a roster? Especially with Derek. If Derek Hill is there and Derek Hill keeps playing well, I like that a lot. But Victor Reyes is a switch hitter, so there is that. And again, another guy that may have to battle for a crowded outfield, Daz Cameron.
No, I don't think he's out there. I just think there's no at bats for him. There's no. They might try to move him. In fact, if a team really likes, his athletic profile, thinks they can turn him into probably a fourth outfielder down the road. I think, but I just don't see. There's no spot for him. There's no.
Yeah. Do you think Jacoby Jones makes an appearance again?
No.
Okay.
If Jacoby Jones plays for the Tigers next year, that's not a good thing. That means something went woefully wrong.
Is that the same thing with Kristen Stewart?
100%.
All right. Well, then I think we have our roster. So we have two.
I don't know. We might have missed. The number might not be right, but like you said, they're going to pick up different bullpen guys, in my opinion.
So we have 21. So 21 that we for sure both agreed on to be on this roster.
But we have a short bullpen there, though. I'm pretty sure.
I think a lot of what we're missing actually is outfield. So we just had Hill, Baду, and Grossman.
Okay.
So it's like, does that mean Victor Reyes may actually be on this
starting? So yeah, you put Victor Reyes out there on opening day.
Daz Cameron maybe.
Daz Cameron out there on opening day. So you were not going to keep more than 5 outfielders though. So
yeah, I wouldn't think that's smart to keep more than 5. So our infield is if you count catcher, it's Haas, Barnhart maybe, and then you got Paredes. Isak Paredes, Nico Goodrum, Jonathan Scope, Jamer, and maybe Miguel Cabrera. So technically, we're missing that for sure first baseman. If Jamer or Scope.
Scope's going to play first base until Torque comes up.
Okay. And then so second base is going to be, you think Paredes does that, or is he shortstop?
Yep. He's a better second baseman. So I think he's a second baseman.
Okay.
When he started off.
I don't like Goodrum at shortstop, so we need a shortstop.
Yeah, so you got to get.
So that's the Correa. Yeah,
that's the big free agent signing right there.
And then Jamer.
And Goodrum could play second base if needed at that point as well.
Yep, and Jamer at third. So Barnhart or Haas at catcher to start the season.
Yep.
And then Cabrera at DH.
Second base. Yep. When Torkelson comes up to play first. You don't need him to play third base at that point, and then you can just say, dude, just go hit. Like, play first base.
I imagine one more bullpen guy we'll get to, because right now we just have Soto, Cisnero, Funkhouser, Alexander, and Lang. And then I said maybe Fulmer is a maybe.
Fulmer, I would say then you maybe keep Fulmer, and I'd say you get 2 more. I bet they keep 8 guys in the pen.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
It could be interesting. This is a pretty good initial look at the future of the Tigers. I think it is.
Yeah, a lot of things will change. Obviously, some opt out of contracts, some some trades that just happen pretty quickly too.
Mm-hmm.
Winter meetings will be really interesting this year. I'm sure the Tigers will be active when they haven't been in some time. So
wasn't Akil Baddoo part of that Rule 5 winter meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So